call the whale, call the one you're intimidated to. Because every single time you do something that your little voice is telling you can't do, you have a breakthrough.
Hey guys, Dino here with the Way Podcast, and I am interviewing Brian Hogben from Mission 35 Mortgages out of Canada. And this dude's great, man. He's such a hard driver. Like he just pushes. He's got 3 different companies, all cross-pollinating with each other, right? Which is, I think, an awesome way to go. And you're going to learn just like the little things that he did in order to be able to get to where he's at. And I think a lot of it too, just the personality that some people have and some people don't, which is okay, right? But he talks a lot about, when he started his own business, how he just thought the entire team would come with him and they didn't. And then how do you persevere over difficulties like that, over even just like the personal, letdown from your team, thinking that they were all going to follow you, right? And he had very specific things that he did. He worked his tail off. He lived in scarcity, he said, but then he also realized that a lot of those things prevented him from getting to that next level. So he quickly turned that around, got a lot of people working for him to the point where he actually had a hard time being able to handle all the people that wanted to come work for him. So there's that, but you're going to hear about things like don't delegate and disappear, because that doesn't work, right? And then learning how to edify people. I won't go deep into this, but you're going to see learning how to edify people, I think, is a super key piece, because I know that was something that was important to me. And I did it wrong when I first started doing it. And then I finally figured out how to, right? So you're going to see what that's all about. His favorite book, which I'll talk about, Outwitting the Devil. And I love this quote too. There's never a lack of resources, just a lack of effort. So I hope you guys really enjoy the show. Hey, everybody, it's Dino from the Way Podcast. We are here to empower, equip, and educate loan officers from the very best in the business. And today, I'm really excited because I got a good friend, Brian Hogben, and he is from Mission 35 Mortgages from Canada, which is kind of exciting for me because I'm really, aside from his funny little words that he says here and there with his accent, I'm really curious to interview him and get down deep to some of the stuff, because I think we can learn from a lot of different people. And I know there's different ways of doing things. And sometimes we get stuck just doing the same thing. And most likely we do a lot of the same stuff anyway. But I'd like to really learn from you, because you've accomplished so much and you've kind of hit across a whole bunch of different streams in real estate as a whole. So first, before we can get into all that, thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate your time, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dino. You know what? I appreciate you, man. I was grateful and fortunate enough to be in a mastermind group with you over 2024. And yes, I was the funny Canadian guy that had a lot of different words to describe things that you do. But I learned a lot from you as well, too. And I love that we both share that same value of collaboration as well, too, because, collaborating cross borders, there's so much that we get to learn together. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. So Brian, let's just get right into it. First and foremost, who are you today, both personally and professionally?
So today I'm Brian Hogben. I am the owner of Mission 35 Mortgages. That is a mortgage brokerage in Ontario in Canada. We have 13 locations across Ontario, which is the province here. We have 60 mortgage agents. We're funding just over 1,000 loans this year we'll do just over $600 million in production volume. And I own a tax company as well, too, that you guys know as Liberty Tax down in the States. So we're a major franchise holder in Canada. We also have a mortgage investment corporation called Shore Capital, where we invest people's money for retirement savings plans into private mortgages up here in Canada. So we've got a lot of vertical integrations in all the different channels for the mortgage market because we really believe, my personal belief, I really want to help people with financial literacy. Having these companies allows me to give what I like to think of as like the high value advice to the normal everyday person. And then personally, I'm married. I've got an 8-year-old daughter, light of my life, little Lila. She just went to her first sleepover camp this past weekend. Terrified the heck out of me. I'm not going to lie. I didn't sleep for about 2 nights. You get all these ideas when your first sleepover camp happens, but we all made it through okay, my wife and my daughter. So that was good. And yeah, and just, you know what, enjoying the journey on it, right? Like every single day. I think for me personally, my favorite things are exercise, work, and family. That's pretty much what I do all the time is spend time with family, spend time in the gym, working out, keep myself fit, and work. It's my sport.
So I got to ask you, what is your work-life balance like? How good are you at that?
I think it comes in seasons, right? Like I read somewhere before, like, having work-life balance on a daily can sometimes be challenging. On a weekly, it can be a bit easier. On a quarter, even better. I think work-life balance is different for everybody, and it all comes down to setting good expectations, right? And I think so, one thing that is a non-negotiable for me is dinner. 5 o'clock, I'm always at home with my family, 5 to 6, 6:30, 7, whatever it looks like. And I always judge my parenting based on how fast I hear those steps running towards the door. Like, yeah, like if they're running fast, I'm doing good. But if they're not running fast, I'm not doing a good job. So
How old is she?
she's 8. Yeah, she'll be 9
All
in
right.
August. So I think it's going to change fairly soon. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm at that stage now where I come in, nobody greets me except the dog. So thank God for Lily. Yeah, and then the cool part though is because I got 2 young boys at home. The girls are older, the boys are still young, and we eat dinner. Mom usually like checks out and goes and takes a bath, and we just all kind of wait for that door to close. And as soon as it does, we hit the video game circuit and we start
oh,
competing against each other,
I
which is
love it.
so much fun. But I gotta say, man, it's like I used to be able to hold my own and actually beat them, and then slowly it started shifting just a little bit, and man, now it's like the hand-eye coordination. These like we play this, it's called Beach Buggy. It's this racing game, and they're just too good. Like they're just too good. I can't even like come close anymore. They mock me, like they laugh and they try and make me go off the road, and
Oh, I love
it's
it.
getting crazy now. Like they're growing up, and
Well,
I'm
my
getting
daughter wanted
old.
to get a Switch, a Nintendo Switch, so I've been holding off for it because I've got a bit of an addictive personality. I know my strengths
Yeah.
and weaknesses. I'd probably be like, "Is mom asleep? Let's play." And it
Yeah,
would be a
let's
late
do it.
night, and I'd be in a lot of trouble.
All right. So listen, I want to go back to day one of when you started. And first, how many years ago was that? And second, like why? Why the mortgage industry? How, where, the whole bit.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I started really where my journey started was in high school. So we're talking over, oh boy, wow. When you start adding up the numbers, right? Going over 25 years ago, right? Probably 26 years ago. I'm 45 now. So my late teens in high school, I actually started as a co op student. I did a co op program at a bank. And I was a long haired skid at the time, Dino. I had a whole bunch of hair down to here. My goal in life was to be a rock star. The reason I grew my hair long is so I could headbang while I played the bass. Okay,
All right.
I had big goals back then. But anyways, I got a job. Well, not a job, but I got this co-op at the bank as a bank teller, and I really liked it. They paid me $10 a day. I got 2 credits to pass high school. I thought I was, in heaven. But I really took a liking to it, and I didn't come from a lot of money. My parents had a reasonable upbringing, right? So we had everything we needed, not necessarily everything that we wanted. But I really got into it. So in the bank, because I did a good job and I was fully trained, they hired me. So then I got hired as a bank teller. And then as a bank teller, if you show a little bit of interest at a bank or a financial institution, they'll train you. So I ended up getting trained as they called it a personal banking officer. Then I got into financial planning. Then I got into mortgages. And
Now, did you cut your hair at this point?
oh yeah, I cut my hair a lot. Yeah, this was around the Ricky Martin era for those older listeners. I went from the skid to a Ricky Martin kind of look. That's a whole separate podcast. We'll leave that for another day. But yeah, I got into mortgages. But I think one of the reasons I got into it was really Robert Kiyosaki. I know you've read Cash Flow Quadrants and Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I remember someone giving me that book. And my goal was, hey, if I could buy enough real estate to have my passive income exceed my employment income, I'd be rich. I'd have it made, right? And that was back when I was making probably $30,000 a year. But I really decided to kind of follow the money. And then in the banking world, you can either go the investment stream or the credit stream. So I was really interested in investment property, really interested in mortgages. So I decided to go all in and go into mortgages with a major bank here. And I started out in that financial planning era, but then got into the commission-based era, which was terrifying, but extremely exciting at the same time.
Is that still with the bank, or did you move on at that point?
Yeah, I was still with the bank. So I ended up becoming, this was in my early 20s again, too. I had purchased my first house. It was a duplex, lived in the really crappy half of the duplex and rented out the other half. I couldn't even afford drapes
Way
at
to
the
go.
time. Yeah. I had to put I remember my dad coming over and putting vapor barrier on the windows. This is going to be terrible for the States. Watch this now. It's just re-solidifying how cold it is in Canada, but I couldn't afford much. So they put the vapor barrier up to keep it warm in there. And I just went out and hustled. I hustled. I was single, had bills to pay. And it's probably, I tell new loan officers all the time now, like, being scared is a good thing. I think it's a tremendous motivator, having a little bit of fear. When you really, you talk about the burning of the boats or having a safety net, all that stuff is nice, but man, nothing beats motivation. And I remember I had the same motivation when I left the bank to, after about 5-6 years working at the bank, having tremendous success. I became one of the top mortgage officers with the bank in Canada. I was going to leave, and I remember being so terrified to leave the bank, like I'm sure lots of loan officers are, because you think that the brand is all about the financial institution instead of you. And
Yeah.
I remember with my wife at the time, I said, I'm terrified to leave. And you're not going to see me for like 6 months, because as soon as I leave, I got to put my nose down and work. So we took 2 back-to-back all-inclusive vacations. I went to like Cuba for a week, came back for a day, and then we went to the Dominican. I just don't think we were that creative at the time, but that's the 2 things that came to mind. And then went for it. And it was probably, I had my best year ever up until that time, as soon as I left the bank. Because, like I said, that fear was extremely motivating. The fear of embarrassment, the fear of looking dumb, the fear of, oh my God, did I make a mistake? I made so many calls, made so many contacts, did all the work that I needed to do, and it proved to be so, so fruitful.
So let me ask some questions with that. In Canada, right? Here, I would say you left the bank and you went to a brokerage,
Hmm.
right? An independent brokerage. Is it similar? Same kind of thing?
Yep. Yeah, be exactly the same.
And
Be leaving the bank, and you're working for a major financial institution versus ethos,
yeah,
right?
got it. Okay. And then are you given anything at all, or is it just like, great, get after it? And here's a higher commission split for it, you know?
Yeah. So when you end up working for a bank, typically the commission split in Canada, anyway, is probably half. Just for example, if it would be half whatever you get as a broker. As a broker, because you have zero support. To your point, right? Depending on the brokerage you go and work for, they might have different, ideas for support. But it's all about going out there. They'll give you the training. They'll give you the tools that you need in order to facilitate the loan. Like when it comes down to technology, but it's all about you going out there, building the relationship and getting the loan and funding the loan. And really what you're piggybacking off of is their institutional relationships, when it comes down to the banks, credit unions we
Yeah.
have up here, and other lenders.
So this is where I'm curious because, you know, being that you went the bank route at first, there was tremendous structure, I would have to imagine, and support and everything else, right? So you can go out there and literally just sell and not have to worry so much about the back end because it's there, right? Like they
Yeah.
got their structure. You're not going to change it versus when you're on the broker side. Like I know for me, when I started getting to that next level of being a good loan officer and I started getting a lot of volume, I didn't like the system that was set up because, somebody else got a loan in before me, they would go first. And I'm like, I need it now. Right. Like A good loan officer always needs it now.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and the way I kind of elevated to that next level was I simply said, I'm no longer going to be second position at all anymore. And I went and got my own processor, and own assistant. And that gave me the ability to say, I'm going to have an approval like that, right? I'm going to have this done like that. So in your system, forget the bank, because now we've moved on to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, did you have that kind of structure that was like acceptable to you and working, or was it not and you had to go develop it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, to you, we call it like a doctor nurse kind of situation where, when I started out, I was the nurse, the receptionist, the doctor, everybody, right? So I was doing everything. And I think what you're kind of talking about is sort of building up that infrastructure in order to scale a little bit. That was a big learning curve for me because I used to think that I had to do everything myself. I was the best at everything. If it's not me talking to the client, they're not going to close. Like a lot of these limiting beliefs that I would end up having. So, and it started with one of my first hires. Great hire was my brother. Actually, he ended up coming on board. He was going through a big transition in life, and he became what you guys would say probably the first processor. I would say
Okay.
processor, but we'll call it a
That's
processor.
right.
Okay.
And this is this your own place right away, or did you go work for another brokerage?
Yeah, no, I went to go work for another brokerage because I didn't know, like going from a bank to opening up my own, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I ended up having 5 years with another brokerage. I ended up building up I started out with just me, hired my brother. Then I ended up hiring another administrator. Then I started building up a team of loan officers as well, too. So over the course of 5 years, I ended up building up both silos of the business. My production business was growing, and then we were training people as well too. So we were growing the sales side of it as well too. And then I decided to open up my own brokerage after 5 years of working for another one. And that's when I like to say I had my Jerry Maguire moment at that time. You ever seen that one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
great.
yeah, it wasn't great. It was really bad. So it was I remember it was in 2016, and it was probably, I was riding high because I had a dream team of 10 loan officers. I had a passive income at that time, about $250,000 Canadian, which is probably about, 5,000 US, right? But it's a little different. But I had a great system there. I had great production. I had just purchased a second office building because our team was growing so much. And, I had the idea for Mission 35 Mortgages. The whole idea around that was I paid off my mortgage by the time I was 35 years old. We're not allowed to deduct the debt here on our primary residence like you guys are. So there's a bit more benefit for us to pay it off on the primary and then reborrow to invest. But that's a different chat. So when I ended up starting that, I thought my whole team was going to come with me. And then when I launched the business, nobody liked the idea. Like, I think even my brother was hesitant to come with me. So I literally, I had 2 office buildings now. I had just spent $500,000 on buying one. This back in 2016 as well too. A couple $100,000 renovating it. Not to mention, 3 months earlier, my mom passed away. My dad had passed away 2 years prior. I had my firstborn baby in August of 2016 as well too. So like that firstborn, you're running around in your underwear, not knowing what to do, trying to help your family out. And I remember in November of 2016 when I launched and everybody left, I thought, wow, this is a moment right now. It's one of those moments where I thought, and I joked with my wife. I said, hey, do you think if I just say I want to take it all back, people will believe me? If I just say just kidding? But it was,
so,
yeah.
so did the people that, I'm assuming the other loan officers, or agents, whatever you guys call them over there, are they all 100% in commission, or do you still have to pay them over there some sort of a minimum wage or salary or something?
So we have two different. So like we have agents who are on a commission. We have commission-based sales agents. So we have them on 100% commission, and we have strategic partnerships with like Remax office and Liberty Tax as well too. So we'll put them in different locations to try to get more business. And then we do have a salaried sort of role as well too that ends up working on the production side.
Operations department type of
Right.
thing. Did the operations people that were on salary at least come with you?
Yeah, they did. They did. Yes. So that was
Okay.
good. But
So
I
whoever
didn't
you
need all
paid,
of them at
came.
that. I didn't need them all anymore. Right. So it was yeah, it was tough, right? But I think it's like it's one of those things. The good things that you want to have in life, they don't come easy, right? And in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that ever happened. And I remember talking to someone at that point too, because I really had some severe doubt about whether I was doing the right thing or not. And someone really put it in the context of my daughter at the time, because everything's about your kids as a parent, but even especially when they're young, like when they're young, your paradigm changes significantly. And I remember somebody saying to me, hey, do you want to be the dad that tells your daughter that you went for it, or do you want to be the dad that tells your daughter to just be complacent? And I was like, there's no way I ever want to tell my daughter that I was just complacent. I always want to be the one that say I went for it. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I'm going to go for it. So
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I've come to realize that, first of all, not everybody has that in them. Um, you know, Fear is a big motivator for guys like you and I think, because we don't want to fail, and we will work our ass off to make that happen. And other people just won't try because they're too scared to fail. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably the majority of the people. But there's a certain personality, right? You have it, and I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last couple of years just because of that. And a couple of the things I want to talk about, though, just to try and motivate some of the people that are stuck right now, right? Um, you went out on the limb, you did this. It didn't work out at first the way you thought. Uh, you had to overcome, whatever that was, right? Of like, hey, they didn't even come with me, and I'm their leader, right? But I wanna motivate somebody right now that's listening. How did you rise above all that and overcome it? What did you do?
I honestly, I booked a Christmas party. And it sounds kind of silly, right? But I'm a big believer that you just need to put one foot in front of the other, right? Because sometimes I think it can be overwhelming. And when we get too introspective there's so much pressure to goal set, but just do the next thing, right? So nobody wanted to come work for my company. I had 3 or 4 people that were there, and I had to have a big, exciting party at Christmas time to launch the business. So I picked up the phone and called everybody, and I could only find one place that was available, December 23rd. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst possible time. I booked it. And then because I booked it, one step will cause you to make the next step, right? So it's kind of like I really believe in taking action. I know it sounds cheesy, take action, right? But take action in a way that causes a reaction, right? Like whenever I'm inspired, whenever I'm motivated, I'll send an email, a text message, I'll do something that will cause a reaction. If I learn something from Dino right now, I'll send a quick text message to maybe my assistant, someone on my team, a friend, right? And it may not make any sense, but I know they're going to follow up with me. And as soon as they follow up with me, that's actually going to bring me back to the moment of inspiration I had when I sent it. Right. So by me setting little feedback loops, or you setting little feedback loops for yourself, it starts that flywheel and it starts the progress, right? Because you're never going to get to the desired result right away, but it keeps you moving forward. So take a step that causes another step.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I oftentimes, especially like younger people, or even older that are kind of stuck, I'm like, open the doors, man. Open the door. It may not be your door, but you never know which other door, the door that you really want to open is behind a lot of other ones. It doesn't always go this way. Sometimes it goes this way. And if you can't go through a few doors, you're never going to get to the one that really matters.
I love that. And you know what? I think too is make a decision. Make a bloody decision, because if you walk through the door and it's the wrong door, guess what? You figured out it's the wrong door. It's better than standing outside the door thinking, should I walk through this door? Should I not walk through this door? You know? And then before you know it, you're standing in front of 5 doors, not making a bloody decision. Walk through one, hit the brick wall. Well, go back, walk through another. And I fundamentally agree with you, Dino, because making a decision increases bandwidth and capacity. Make a decision, right or wrong, doesn't matter. Make a decision. Yes, I'm going to say yes and do that. I'm going to say no. Just like you say, walking through the door. I love that.
So let's get to the next major milestone, right? I mean, you had the Christmas party. I'm assuming that kind of created something. And I want to hear these milestones now. Like, how did you pole vault to the next? Actually, before you answer that, I'm curious, how old were you?
Oh gosh. So I launched Mission 35 Mortgages. I believe I was 37 at the time. Yeah, because
Did
we've
you
been
have your
9 years.
house
So no,
paid
it's
off?
been 36. Yeah.
Did
So
you have your house?
yeah, so I sold my very first duplex when I was 34, and it was enough money to pay off the balance on the house that I lived in, and I still live in today.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I was
So
able
you
to
had
be
bought another house already.
well. Yeah, I own quite a few. I've done the property ladder as well too. So all throughout this, like I still had Robert Kiyosaki in the back of my head. And so, right now I've got over 50 different units ranging from residential, condo, commercial, multifamily, small apartment buildings. And it's just like, I love that real estate is such a big wealth builder for people. Right. And I think, you know, people just need to have a longer term vision. If you have a longer term vision with your career, like a lot of times you're going to look at Dino and think, man, I want to be like Dino. But it's like, look at what Dino had to go through to get to where Dino is today, right? You don't build all this wealth by buying a house and holding on to it for a year. You buy a house and hold on to it for 10 years or 15 years. Like the career of home ownership, the career of being a loan officer, there's tremendous wealth on the other side of that.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about your milestones now. Um, how did you get to the next level, and what was that next level?
Yeah, I think the next level was letting go. Like when I ended up because there's only so many hours in a day, right? And I honestly remember, so people would come on board to our branch, call it a branch, our brokerage, and say, I want to join. And I would always say yes. So then I'd be training people. Then, because I was out marketing, I'd have mortgages to do. So then I'd be doing the mortgages as well too, everything from beginning to end. And I would have a little bit of help with administration because, again, I still had some limiting beliefs there. I remember driving home sometimes and pulling over and yelling and crying on the way home because I could not handle the capacity. Like I couldn't say no. More people want to come on board and I didn't know what to do. And I remember I took a trip to Puerto Vallarta and I was with my wife at the time and I read a book and it was Gary Keller's $1 Million Agent. Now, if you ever read that one, it's a real estate book, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and it basically taught me about systems and processes. I was literally on the verge of a breakdown because I was working 7 days a week, 13, 14 hours a day, and not even having enough time.
And
And
still doing loans as well as trying to run the company.
doing totally loans, run the company, like all the things that come up, right? And it just really, that was the catalyst to me starting to think about systems. And I thought, and I thought about, I can't grow if everything has to funnel through me. I just can't. It's impossible, right? And I had a great analogy for me. It's like someone referred to me as the filter, right? So if you're pouring water through a filter into a cup, and if Brian's the filter and everything needs to go through there, you're the bottleneck, right? If you can remove that, how much more water can go in the cup? It can just flow. So I started really looking at that and building up systems and people. And that's when I really started to make that transition and say, listen, I can't talk to all the clients all the time. So I think the first milestone was empowering my team to do the lead, right? So when a lead came in, I would still have what we would call the value call, discovery call. And so, hey, what does Dino need? Build up rapport. And then I would do an edification handoff. So I would have to edify my team. And I think this is sometimes the biggest challenge that loan officers have, and I still see it with my team because they want to maintain control because we're the best at it. But when you do a powerful handoff, edification is just such a powerful word I learned. Edification is when, if Dino at the beginning of a presentation says how great Brian is, all of a sudden people will believe that Brian is great because Dino edified me. If I do a great job of edifying my loan officer or my processor and say, hey, listen, Dino's going to call you. He's amazing. Actually, he's better than me. He's closed 100 deals in the past 8 months. You are in great hands. People, if you've built rapport and have a relationship, will believe that. And it's not like you're lying, but you're setting up the processor to win. And now you can exit from that transaction and move on to the next one.
I love that. I know that was a big thing for me. So very similar. Just doing a ton of volume, working my tail off, getting to the point where it was like, well, can't do any more, right? And you got to hire somebody, and then that works, and then you hire somebody else, and that works, and then you go learn a few things, like from these mastermind groups that you and I were in, and that sure helps, and that works, and then you have to keep retooling, right? Because every time I did something, it worked, and I just got busier, and then all I did was just put more on my plate. Sure, I stopped reading all my emails and somebody else did it for me. That worked. And it gave me more time to talk to more people. So that was cool. And then sure, I, started handing off more things. So all I did was talk to clients. But got to a point where I was talking to clients from the second I walked in till the second I went out. And that was too much. Even that was too much, right? So I loved what you said about edifying other people. And I can say just firsthand experience, when I started shifting gears, people felt like I was passing them off to somebody less than. And it didn't work. So I had to take it back. And then I had to relearn how to pass it off. And as you said, how to edify other people. So I had to start saying, Mario, for example, Mario is my right hand man. He actually does all the work. I just take all the credit. He's really good. And all of a sudden, you know, things got a little bit better. Right. And I started talking more about the team and everything they do. And next thing you know, it just didn't become a problem. Right. But there was definitely a way to do that. Otherwise, all you're doing is, putting more and more pressure on yourself. And that isn't going to end up great for anybody, including the family.
And I think, because I know you, Dino, and it's almost like in those situations you didn't work any less, but what you did was, instead of pouring into 20 clients a day, you poured into Mario, right? So then, and I think the reason why that works too is because when you pour into Mario and then clients deal with him, they realize that he's a reflection of you,
Yeah.
because you've poured into him for days and weeks and months. And that's what you being a great leader, that's what you do. You pour into somebody tremendously, and then that process actually works. It's when people delegate and disappear, be like, okay, you're going to talk to Mario, but you haven't poured into Mario, right? If you haven't poured into him and you haven't done a good job as a leader to build up your team, that's when the process doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like you.
So let's I just want to paraphrase that because I think there's so much gold there. And for somebody listening right now, so a lot of times, you're stuck in whatever thing you're doing. Sometimes you just need to change because obviously if you're stuck, it's not working, or there could be a better way. I know both Brian and I paid a lot of money to be in a group where we surrounded ourselves with really great people in our industry, and we learned a lot from that. Sometimes it's just a little bit, but sometimes that is all you need to change to have huge success. And sometimes it's not even success based on numbers, it's success based on regaining some of your time back, right? Like your personal time. So number one, I would say always seek out better ways. And you're doing that right now if you're listening to this podcast, right? And so that's a good start. But sometimes you even need to pay for it. Don't be afraid to pay for coaching. Don't be afraid to join some groups. There's a lot of gold there. There's also a ton of free stuff out there that a lot of good people put out. So that's one. Um, but number two, you need to start delegating things. And I loved what you just said. Don't delegate and disappear, because that's when it's not going to work, right? Pour, and this is the part I'm getting to, pour into somebody else. And worst case scenario, you've actually you've created something really great for somebody. I know when I poured into Mario, I changed his life. He now has a career in a really great industry. Sometimes he second guesses it, but 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 the truth is it's a great industry, and I poured into him. I know you've poured into a lot of people. You changed a lot of people's paths. It's great.
And you know what? I want to piggyback on that because I know for me, when I had my Jerry Maguire moment, I lived in scarcity for a while, and it really didn't serve me. And I see a lot of people live in scarcity, and what that looks like is I don't want to pour into somebody. I don't want to teach someone because they might leave me and go to the competition, right?
Like you did, that guy for the first 5 years,
Right.
but it's gonna
Like,
happen. It's gonna
right.
happen.
And I think, a great paradigm that was given to me was a dynasty, a dream team, right? Like whether it's in the NCAA or whatever it is, they're together for 4 years. A dynasty is together for 4 years. So if you have like dream team players on your team for 5 years or 6 years, you're on borrowed time. And the other great framework that I heard, I listened to a Dave Ramsey podcast, and he ended saying in his amazing American accent, which I love, there's only one guy who's not leaving the Ramsey Corporation. It's Dave Ramsey. And it's just, and he's right. He's like, so his mindset is like, listen, to exactly your point, Dino, you live in abundance because, hey, you're on the journey, pour into them. You're likely going to create massive abundance for your business for a period of time. And then you created an amazing human being who's on a journey to do something great too. Either ones are a win.
So I was reading your bio, and I loved the last, I believe, last sentence here. It says his mission remains the same: to inspire, to educate, and empower others to build wealth and live with purpose. And and that's what we just talked about, right? You inspire people, you educate them, and you empower them. And that could be clients, it could also be employees or coworkers. And I know that I had a situation one time where I had a guy that he was my before Mario, he was my guy. And he worked his tail off. And I'll admit, man, he did work hard. And he always wanted more money and more money and more money. And it got to a point where I was like, it's just too much money, right? Like I could hire 3 people for the price that I'm paying you. And and what I realized though was I was going off learning how to do things, and become better, and I kept making tweaks and changes, and he desired it, but I was holding him back because I was just trying to keep him in his role. And if he wanted more money, I needed to let him go off and fly and grow his own wings. And that was, I remember, something that was really hard for me because it was like, man, I got something really good right here. And I love the fact that I don't have to worry about it because he's here. But the reality is I could hire 3 people for that price, which means I would get better service, I would have more coverage, right? And life would be even easier for me. And he has to go off and fly if he truly desires to be able to make more money, which he did. And I think that was something that was important, that the dynasty is that, and there's going to be a time where it just has to come to an end. But I think maybe the mentality of it can change. It doesn't have to come to an end. It just has to keep growing. And I think that's kind of a big deal. I heard something just this morning. I was listening to Tools of Titans from Tim Ferriss, the book that he has, and and I forget the guy's name because he interviewed a whole bunch of guys in this book, and this last guy, he said, if you want to be a butterfly, you have to be able to give up being a caterpillar. And and I was like, oh, I really love that, right? So like in my case, I've been a very successful mortgage advisor for years, and I've been a business owner, but I would say I've been a more successful mortgage advisor than I have a business owner. And I sat there and I'm like, if I want to be a business owner bad enough, I have to be able to give up being a really great mortgage advisor. Otherwise, just go back to being a mortgage advisor. And it's hard because that's what I've been doing for 28 years, you know? So it's really hard to give it up. I can do both, but am I really doing both at its fullest potential? The answer is no, I'm not, right? I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm doing pretty good, but then you get sucked in over here, you get sucked in whatever that might be. So I loved that piece. So this morning it was, whatever you want to be bad enough, are you willing to give up the piece that's holding you back?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That
Anyway,
is, yeah, I like that
um,
a lot. It's funny how the lessons that you need to learn can come back in different ways over and over
yeah,
again.
yeah, for sure. So, this part of the podcast gets kind of fun. I want to ask you a question. I, you know, everything you know, um, you have some money, but not a lot. And I'm going to pick you up and take you out of Canada. I'm going to throw you somewhere in the middle of America and tell you have to be a successful mortgage advisor slash loan officer, whatever you want to call yourself, right? You're going to be doing loans, and you can't go back to Canada or see your family until you've closed 100 million in production, which is a top producing high end guy, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? How do you do it? You have some money, right? You're not like in poverty, but you definitely don't have a lot to throw a bunch of money at it.
It's kind of like, yeah, I've got knowledge, right? And I think that's the thing. So, you know what, dropping into a different market area, I still have got the knowledge and the expertise and the know-how. You know what? And I love building businesses with little money, right? I tell people all the time, you know, go for a coffee over a lunch or dinner, because I think the relationship is a lost art form, you know, with technology and things like that is the way today. Being able to sit down with someone belly to belly again, I think you can form a great bond and a great relationship. So for me, you drop me into a new area, I'm going to find out who the biggest, baddest players are in the industry. I'm going to find out who's the number one realtor, who's the number one financial planner, who's the number one divorce lawyer, who's the number one in each of my different verticals and silos. And I'm going to go and meet them. I'm going to go spend time with them, and I'm going to be relentless with them. And because I'd rather start at the top and work with the biggest person, because if one of those whales or one of those people can end up working with me, I don't need other ones, right? That's the ones that's going to get me the 100 million, and I would go straight for that. And I would just be ferocious. I would be relentless. I would just continue. That's how I got a lot of my business, because when I was young and started, people knew I didn't own a house. They knew I was really young. But I think when you show up with tenacity and relentlessness, it speaks to probably how you're going to treat people's clients as well too. And I think really big realtors want to know that loan officers are going to fight for their clients. And sometimes we're too a little worried or afraid in order to go after those clients.
I love it. Show up with tenacity. It's a good word. Good word. So that it's really interesting when I ask that question. I think about all the answers, right? And there's been a couple that have been a little more technology driven, but at the end of the day, when I ask that question, everybody reverts back to grassroots, to the belly to belly, to the phone calls, to the relentless, just, communicating with people, as opposed to creating all of this social media stuff, right? And doing all these things. Like, it's a part of these days. You got to do a whole bunch, but the reality is everybody goes back to saying that I'm going to go meet with somebody.
I think it's like, if I'm in front of your face, I think it's hard to say no. Right? It's easy to say no to an email. It's easy to ignore a text message. It's easy to ignore social media. But like, if I'm right in front of you and you see into my soul and look into my eyes and see the conviction that I have that I want to do right and do good and be a partner with you, that is really hard to say no to somebody, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Right? And I think it works still.
Yeah, I agree. So let's also approach something, because there's technicalities, right? Or I shouldn't say technicalities. There's technical, like things you have to do to be good at your profession, right? Um, if you could do one thing over again, what would it be that you could do so much better?
If I could do one thing over in my business,
Hmm.
hmm.
I'll give you an example. For me, it was to do a way better job on my CRM,
Mm.
on my database.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. Like, I think for me, and by no means have I done everything perfect. I've probably done everything wrong, right? And I think for me, like, but seriously, like I've made so many bad decisions and so many wrong things, but I really enjoy the journey of those wrong decisions. And I think the wrong decisions create learning that otherwise wouldn't have been had. Right. So it's like to do things over again. I'm just the type of person I never look back and say I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Because I always look back and think, yeah, that's why that happened. That's why, you know what, you needed to learn in that situation exactly what you learned. And that's why, you know, people left, or that's why you lost that deal, or that's why you didn't grow quick enough, and that's why you didn't do the things right. So I think for me, not trying to dodge the question out of there, but I think it's just more so to know that for people out there, like, your journey is your journey and it's totally fine, and to make wrong paths is going to happen, but I don't know what I would do to make it go faster, right? Because I honestly think if I made anything go faster, I probably would have had even more failure, right?
Yeah,
So,
I can see that.
you know.
So, I'll say for me, I said the CRM because what I see right now with a lot of people, especially younger ones, is they grab their cell phone. They're like, "Let me have your number," right? And all they have in there is a name and a phone number, and there's no notes. There's no like little things that years from now will matter, right? Like the kid's names, the dog's name, where you guys met, what he talked about that actually like becomes important later. So my advice to somebody is get really good. If you're going to do just this, that's fine, but get really good at stepping away, and you just do a freaking voice recording if you have to, so you don't forget, and then go put it in later, but put it in somewhere because I remembered everything about everybody for a very long time, even their phone numbers. I just remembered. So when you say like, you know, what their mortgage payment was, or, where they worked and how much money they were making and what their goal was and how much they can afford, I just remembered. And then the day came where I couldn't remember jack diddly squat because I just had too many. I had too
Yeah.
many clients, and still to this day, I'll remember a lot of things from my oldest clients. I could never left, but all of the new ones, because we got so used to, either because I got an assistant that started doing like all the data input and all the stuff, it just didn't register anymore for me, right? And you just start forgetting things. So uh, I believe doing, like what we've called many times over, like a high trust interview, and don't just ask the questions, but write them down, right? And remember them, and then go put them in your notes in your phone, your database, or CRM, whatever you use, and be detailed about a lot of that stuff because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you should expect that that person's still going to be your client, and you want to remember those details. And I think that's super important for everybody to never forget, especially because in today's world, technology is taking over. And if you have the money or the technology to be like that, great. But if you don't, then you better be better than them. And the only way you're going to be better than them is by remembering and knowing the things that actually matter the most to people, right? I think remembering that your daughter went to camp and you freaked out is something we can talk about years from now. And if I remembered that, you'll probably think more of me than you would if I was superficial.
100%. I think utilizing those tech tools right now is the biggest asset we have in order to put that, like you say, a CRM, an assistant. I think having an assistant that has a, because my organization skills are lackluster, to say the best, right? But having someone to do that for you, because knowing where your weaknesses are is big. Because we have that. That's, what, when I send notes to my assistant, we have that form, right? We have that database, or an all about you form. Have you got, like, that's one that we've started implementing again. I used it when I started. I think I shouldn't have got away from it, but getting it back for all of our teams, those things are awesome, right? For your realtors, for your people, the all about you forum that says, do you like sweet or salty? What restaurant do you like? What's your shoe size? All these different things. And you keep that on file. Then all of a sudden you can buy them a pair of shoes and, like, how the heck did you know I'm a size 9? It's like, well, 3 years ago you filled out an all about you form, right? And you have those things, because I agree, tech will never replace the relationship, right? In my opinion, I think having that human element, that human touch, be able to bond, but you need to have those things in place, like you're saying, and I think the all about you form is one that I could do a better job at, and then I would incorporate in my business starting from day one, and keep it and
Keep
use
it.
it strategically.
Yeah. I think about sometimes, I'm telling people what to do, and I'm telling them still today things that I did way back then that are super important. And then I realize, and granted, I'm not doing the loans anymore, but I realized that even before I stopped doing loans, I had stopped doing it. It's just like, why? The all about you form, right? I did that too. I haven't done it in years. I just wrote it down because it's like we should be, it's one of the simplest things you could do that that if you use it properly is meaningful. Anyway, let's move on. Favorite book.
One I read every year is Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
every year.
yeah, every year. It's one of those ones, like, as I get older, I'm an avid reader. I love reading, but I've got certain books I like to read over and over again because they just have the tried, tested, true things that I want to remember. And that book is just like, it was written way before its time as well too. Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, which most people know about. But he also wrote shortly after that Outwitting the Devil, but they actually, because it was a very religious time back then, he wasn't allowed to release it. His family said, people are going to think you're crazy if you put this book out. So he wasn't able to put it out until after his death, almost 70 years later. But it's a great book about, just the attributes and who you want to be and how you want to show up.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite quote?
I do. And it's, there's never a lack of resources, only a lack of resourcefulness.
Yeah, that's good.
I remind myself of that all the time. And first-time home buyers, I remind them of that a lot too. So
Yeah.
let's get resourceful.
Great. So let's leave whoever's listening with one bold action. If you could give somebody a bold piece of advice right now to change their entire business, what would it be?
I got a couple things. One, I would say make the big call the realtor, call the financial planner, call them, because you'd be surprised how many of the biggest people in the industry never get called because people are intimidated by them. Call them. You'd be so bloody surprised, right? Just call them. And guess what? If they don't want to deal with you, it makes calling anybody else a heck of a lot easier, right? You just gave yourself a huge pat on the back. You gave yourself courage. You built a relationship. So much compounds from that. Call the whale. Call the one you're intimidated to, because every single time you do something that your little voice is telling you can't do, you have a breakthrough. And then it makes everything else so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I think that's great advice right there. And quite simply, just like you said, if it doesn't work, first of all, who cares? The fact that you did it, you went after the biggest boulder you could find and tried to move it. That shows you're the size of your cojones, and everyone after that just gets easier.
And I would say most of those big, because I'm grateful that I have a lot of those relationships today. And you know this, Dino, because you're a big boulder yourself. I think people respect that a lot. You know what? When you're in those positions, they're going to respect that, and you'd probably get a better response than what you think. Might not deal with you, but they might give you time. They might give you ear. They might give you a lead, right? So
I'm going to piggyback off that a little bit though. I had a guy call me, and I think it was coaching. He was doing some sort of coaching. And the thing of the matter is he got through. He got through my gatekeeper. He got through, everything. And then he got me. He had me. And he freaking failed. He sucked. And I was like, if you're gonna call me, you better be damn good, right? Like, you better be able to hold my attention and get me to at least compliment you. I've done it before where I said, just not something I'm interested in, but I am going to compliment you because number one, you got through, and number two, I actually thought you did a great presentation, right? In 30 seconds, or you kept me on for 60 or 2 minutes or whatever it might be. But you better have that dialed. Get it dialed before you start calling people and doing that stuff. And it's not hard, but don't be a fool when you do get somebody on, right? Like, get yourself.
I was just going to say, I just remember too on those things, not now does not mean not ever. Just means not now. Someone says no, it's not now. Maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks from now. I think sometimes I know this is maybe more of a Canadian thing, American thing. Sometimes we get in our head about we're calling somebody too much, or we get a little bit embarrassed, or we don't want to be too aggressive. With the right people, it's okay. Don't be a fool about it, but take your shot and keep taking it.
Yeah, keep taking it. Okay, this has nothing to do with loans, but I need you to say the word. There's father, and then there's
Mother.
So why isn't it mother if it's processor?
Father,
I was
mother,
thinking of that earlier
mother,
when I heard you say
father.
processor.
Oh,
Yeah.
Processor.
Like, for us, we say but you're right. It's an O, so it would be pro.
It's an O. Yeah, processor. I
But
don't know. It could be
mother
anything.
also has an O. Why don't
What
you
about
say it like that?
wait? What about tomato?
Tomato. What about it?
Okay, I don't know. Just checking. Just checking. Oh man.
Anyway,
Love you guys.
listen, man,
Love you, man.
thank you so much for joining us and coming on and just everything. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dino, for having me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship too, man. It means a lot. Thank you.
Likewise. For all you guys listening, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I got to tell you, all the shows, and they've been so action packed, so good, so much just gold nuggets out of each and every one. So I hope you guys go back, you listen to a bunch of them, and let me know which ones you guys like the most. I do got to tell you, we are going to be wrapping it pretty soon with a season 1, and we're going to be creating a season 2 where we're going to be basically 5 different pillars, and we're going to go dive deep into every pillar about how to be an extremely successful mortgage originator by mastering each of the pillars. So that's coming. It's not yet, but it's coming, season 2. Okay. If you guys enjoyed the show, please do share it, like it, comment. Obviously, it helps with the algorithms because social media these days is everything. So we really would appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.